Welcome to another episode of the GunBlog VarietyCast with your hosts, Sean Sorrentino and Aaron Paulette.
Welcome to episode 116 of the GunBlog VarietyCast, a proud member of the Self-Defense Radio Network. How are you doing, Aaron?
I am doing great because Blazing Sword has successfully submitted the paperwork to become a tax-deductible charity. Now, we haven't been approved yet, and that could take a few months, but having filed allows us to do a few things. Now, quoting from my lawyer, although we are a nonprofit, we have applied for, but currently do not yet have, federal tax-exempt status. However, in the event our tax-exempt status is approved by the IRS, any donations to us will be considered tax-deductible. In addition, donations made prior to the IRS's approval would be considered retroactively tax-exempt, including donations made as far back as our date of formation in August 2016. End quote. Now, what this means, among other things, is that anyone who takes an LGBTQ person shooting and keeps their receipts for range fees and ammunition bought can count that as a tax-deductible donation, provided, of course, we are approved, which I expect that we will be. And if you want more information, check out the post that I made on the Blazing Sword Facebook page. There's a link in the show notes.
All right, and I read that. I think it's a really good post. I recommend everybody read that post.
This podcast runs on your donations. Go to gunblogvarietycast.com and click on the donate or the subscribe button in the right sidebar. You can make a one-time donation of any amount or subscribe for as little as $2 a month. That doesn't sound like much, but we pay our server costs monthly. A little help from you is a big help to us.
So we've had so many contributors who've had terrible weeks that we're going to bag this whole episode and just push it on to the next week. But we can't leave you without something to listen to now, can we?
Well, I can do a stirring rendition of Man of La Mancha, but I think that might be a little weird. So let's keep it short and sweet.
So like I said last week, I've already voted.
So have I, and may God have mercy on our souls.
So it's in the hands of fate now. No matter what happens, half the country is going to be butthurt about the outcome.
So much butthurt. I'm going to buy stock in Preparation H.
So we can either sit here and dwell on the election, or we can focus on something positive.
And I need something positive because I've run out of My Little Pony episodes, and there's still a week of election to endure. People from the future, I envy you, because this election is already in your past.
Yep, and when you guys get this podcast on Sunday night or Monday on your way to work, you'll have like one day left, and then Tuesday will be election day, and then Wednesday you get to deal with the fallout. Yay! Won't that be fun? So, instead of just focusing on that horrifying, terrible awfulness in which everybody's going to be upset, even the people who win are going to be upset, I think, why don't we talk about our tribe? The people that we know, the people that we've become because of the people we know, and kind of sort of how we got here and why you should come too. Aaron, how did you get here?
That is a complicated story, and I can't get into it in detail, but it really comes down to two people. And the first person is Linoge, who is unfortunately no longer blogging. I was on the periphery of gun blogs back in 2008, 2009 when I was getting into prepping. And part of prepping involves owning guns. And after I bought my Mosin Nagant, I took another friend shooting, and I posted about it because that's what I do in my blog. I do fun things. I blog about it. And Linoge posted a link to it on his blog, and I noticed other gun people coming in and commenting. And that's how I got involved in the gun blog community, because people were commenting on it, and they were really neat, and I started visiting their blogs. And, well, that's how I met you, honestly. And Linoge is also responsible for helping me become a product reviewer. He put in a good word for me with Crimson Trace. And so I was able to get a laser to test. So he's very responsible for this, and I'm sorry he's no longer blogging, but thank you.
I had been blogging for a little while. Pretty much everybody knows that I started blogging because I was doing a lot of responding to comments on a particular anti-gunner's blog. And I remember that I went to the Lucky Gunner machine gun shoot, and I sat down, I think it was Sunday at like lunch or dinner. I don't know what it was, but it was like towards the end, and I'm sitting at a table, and I'm sitting next to Sebastian, the guy who runs Snowflakes in Hell blog. And I've been reading this guy for, I don't know, years. And I'm just sort of sitting next to him eating dinner. And I'm thinking, how the heck did I get here? Why am just this random dude sitting eating next to this big time blogger here? And 2 people down from him was Jennifer. And it was just bizarre to me that suddenly I am part of this group because, I'm just this guy. And it really kind of taught me something about you were part of a larger community. Just being part of the gun club, you carry a gun, you have a gun, you own a gun, you like guns. You're part of this larger community of people. And because you share this interest, you're connected with everybody else who shares that interest, even if they're not a whole lot like you.
Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. And I experienced the warm, welcoming nature of the gun community when, a while back, I really wanted to get a concealed carry pistol and get the permit and all those things, and I couldn't afford it. And the other person who is responsible for getting me where I am today is Oleg Volk. And if you haven't met him, he's an awesome guy. He got to know me through a silly post I wrote. And when I told him that I really wanted a concealed carry pistol, but I didn't know when I would ever afford it, he said, "You should ask the gun community. They will help you buy one." And I didn't think this was possible. But he put out a good word for me on his blog, and donations came in. And the gun community helped they didn't help crowdfund. They literally did crowdfund for me my Glock 26 and the money that I needed to get a concealed carry permit. And I was just overwhelmed by this, that people I didn't know cared enough about my safety that they would donate precious money to me. And a lot of them described it as a political donation. And I can see that, but still, I took it in a very wonderful, personal way. They wanted to see me armed and protected. And I've just felt so grateful for that people who I didn't know would donate, in some cases, rather large amounts of money, that I have felt both protected by and loved by and also indebted to the gun community. And so ever since that time, I have been trying to give back in the way that they gave to me, or pay it forward, I suppose. That's one reason why I've been so outspoken about helping out other gun owners in need. I guess you could say that's one of the main forces behind Blazing Sword, because I saw an opportunity to help people, to give back to the community, and I just did it because I feel like I'm trying to pay back this debt. If it hadn't been for that one display of kindness that people I didn't know showed to me, then I wouldn't be where I am. I certainly wouldn't be on this podcast. And I wouldn't be doing this wonderful thing of helping and educating and empowering LGBTQ people. So between these 2 folks, they've really helped me become what I am now. It's just marvelous because, this is going to sound, I guess, egotistical, but I feel like for once, I'm just on the cusp of being able to really do something important, and I couldn't have done that without the gun community. And so, I'm sorry, I'm getting a little choked up here. And so,
you don't have to explain it to me. I've run into the same thing. I'm just this blogger, right? And I was so stupid. I was literally so dumb about the way legislation worked that I thought that it was necessary to pay attention to every single bill that was introduced into the North Carolina General Assembly. I wrote down every single bill. I looked at every one of them. I tried to explain every one of them. It never occurred to me that there were a whole bunch of bills that nobody ever paid any attention to. I followed every one of these. Found out later that probably 90% of them never even got a hearing. But because I did this, a local podcaster, Luke from Triangle Tactical Podcast, he says, "Hey, can I interview you?" And then after he interviewed me, he hounded me for like a year, 2 years, and said, "You need to podcast." And eventually I said, well, it was a whole lot of fun. And I got some equipment and started podcasting, roped a bunch of friends into helping me out, thinking, well, they could provide content. It'll make it easier for me. Not realizing what I had done is I had, developed myself a editing nightmare. But I did get a whole lot of really cool people. I did get that part. And every time I turn around, if I don't know something, like how do you do this? Or what does this mean? There's somebody leaping out of the woodwork to say, oh, like this. And somebody will ask me a question. I'm like, oh, you just do it like this. And they act like, oh, this is a giant big deal. Like, well, thank you for helping me out. I'm like, well, it's no big deal. And then I realized that I'm the same guy on the other side saying, oh, thank you so much for helping me out with this thing that was so important to me. And they're doing the same thing to me. Like, it wasn't that big a deal. I knew the answer. It wasn't that hard. And I will totally help you out because that's what we do. And we've got thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who were absolutely willing at a second's notice to say, this is how you do it. Here, let me help you. Here, let me show you. Where do you live exactly? Oh, I know somebody who lives over there. Let me put you in touch with somebody. They'll take you. It's because we share this one thing. It's not just people, is it? It's places, it's events, it's those times when we gather together. Can you tell me that one time when you figured out that, this is for real, you're actually somebody. You're actually, here you are accepted. You're part of the crowd.
Yeah, that was at Gun Rights Policy Conference back in September of this year.
And see, I knew you were going to pick that. I absolutely knew you were going to pick that one. And it's not just because it's written in the show notes, but I knew that before I wrote it in the show notes.
Yeah, and you look marvelous, darling, in your purple pony shirt.
I did not. I looked like a fool, but I had a great time looking like a fool.
And that was one of the neat things because there we are. I'm going to show a solidarity. I'm wearing a pony shirt too. Of course, I like it. But people are coming up to us and they're taking us seriously and they're asking questions. And you were interviewed by Polite Society. I was interviewed by Polite Society and Kimberly Morin and Craig Deleuze. Deleuze,
I believe is his name.
Yes, Craig Deleuze.
Who's a super nice guy.
Oh, yeah, he's a wonderful guy. And these people are just, they're cool with me. They're not looking at me sideways. I'm just, I'm here. I'm being myself just as hard as I can. And everyone is either, they aren't noticing any weirdness or they're going, but she's weird, but she's one of us. It's cool. And everyone's just treating me normally and they're including me and they want my opinion and they want me to be interviewed and my opinion matters. And it's just, wow. How did this happen? I still am that kind of goofball who talks about ponies. You really want my opinion? This is valid? And then I think, well, yeah, actually, because I do realize now that I am accomplishing something great, and I'm patting myself on the back here. I know I'm rambling, but it's, when John Richardson of Polite Society actually mentioned me by name, when he was the speaker for the GRPC, that was the moment when I went, wow, okay, not only have I been accepted, but I've found my tribe, I've found my calling. Things are actually starting to work out pretty well.
Have you seen the video of leadership explained by the first dancer and first follower? You ever seen that video?
No.
As this guy explains leadership, there's this one lone nut, he's dancing crazy and everybody's watching him. And then in, 10 seconds later, this guy joins him and starts dancing. And that one first follower transforms that lone nut into a leader. And then all of a sudden it becomes a movement because the second follower and the third follower, and then the crowd shows up and everybody's dancing. That's pretty much what happened to you. You said, well, this is cool. I'll just start writing down names. And then all the other people showed up because they all wanted to do the same thing as you did.
Yeah, they all wanted to be helpful, like what you were talking about. Gunnies are very helpful people, and that's one of the things I really love about our community, because I haven't seen this in any other hobby. Let's say motorcycle riding, or if you're into classic cars. Yeah, people will gather and they will show their stuff off, and you're expected to ooh and ah, but you can't go, hey, pal, your Mustang looks really cool. Can I take it for a drive? They're going to say, no way. But if you go up to a gun owner who's shooting something you've never seen before, and it's like, hey, wow, that's really cool. I've never seen, what kind of gun is it? And 9 times out of 10, after they tell you, oh, it's a such and so caliber, and I've done these modifications on it, pause. You want to shoot it?
Yep.
And I haven't seen that in other communities and other hobbies, and that's just so cool. And it's just this attitude of, sure, try my stuff. It's awesome. I want to see you enjoying it. And yeah, just that overall helpfulness, and I want you to succeed. I want you to enjoy doing this thing because it makes me feel good, and I love it.
And what that means is in the end, it's not about you, Aaron, and it's not about me, Sean, and it's not about any of the individual podcasters or bloggers or the leaders of any of these particular organizations. It's not about them. Some of us are famous, and some of us are semi-famous, and some of us run our mouths on a podcast. But we're not the important people. The important people are the people listening to us right now. The important people are the people who have the guns and are participating in these activities. The people that are going to GRPC, the people that are going to the NRA annual meeting, the people who are going to their local state firearms organization meetings and events and rallies at their state houses, the people that are going to competitions, the people that are going to gun shows, the people that are doing things with their tribe. You people are important. It's not about me. It's not about Aaron. We're just those guys or girls. You may listen to us. You may be entertained by some of the stuff that we do. But in the end, we just happen to be some of the louder voices in a giant freaking chorus. And you are the rest of the voices. And it would be really boring if the only voices heard in the chorus were mine and Aaron's and some of these, leader people, whoever they are. It wouldn't be what it is. It wouldn't be thousands of people saying, oh yeah, sure, I'll help you out, because there just aren't that many leaders. So if you're sitting right now in your car on your way to work, if you're at home listening, wherever you find yourself, if you haven't gotten out from behind the speakers, from inside your headphones or wherever you're listening to us, and gone to these events, gone to a competition, gone to NRA annual meeting, gone to GRPC, gone to your state level gun organizations meetings, what are you waiting for? Get out there and be part of the tribe, because all of the awesome things that have happened to me, happened to Aaron, happened to everybody I've talked to, probably everybody Aaron's talked to. They're all waiting to happen to you. You're going to meet some of the craziest, most interesting, most fun people you're ever going to meet in your life. And the most diverse crowd of people you could possibly imagine, who have sometimes nothing in common except they happen to like guns. And you're going to love them more than anybody you can imagine.
Yeah, so definitely come out to these events. If you're coming out to the NRA annual meeting in Atlanta next year, or Gun Rights Policy Conference in Dallas, I hope we can attend. Definitely, well, first of all, just come, because you're going to have a great time. Secondly, come see me, come see Sean. And it's not so much I want to meet a fan, although I do love meeting people who listen. But again, it's that gun owner helpfulness. If you come to me and you introduce yourself, I will be pleased, I will be thrilled to show you the cool things that are going on. Oh, you absolutely have to go to this booth. Oh, hey, we're having dinner tonight. Do you want to come along? Oh, hey, I heard about a cool thing. Do you want to come with? Because the fun is increased when more people are involved.
Yeah.
And I would just love to invite you. So yeah, come by, say hi.
So wherever you are, wherever you've been, wherever you're going, showing up is 80% of life. Not only can you subscribe or donate to the podcast, you can also make a contribution to the LGBT Training Ammo Fund. Go to GunBlogVarietyCast.com and click on the LGBT Training Ammo Fund donation button in the right sidebar. I'll use this money to pay for range fees, targets, and yes, ammo for the people I teach. And thanks for your support. So since we're doing a short podcast, that's probably going to leave you a little extra time in your podcast listening schedule. So maybe you're going to want another podcast to listen to. So I thought, why not give you a list of podcasts you can go look for? As you know, the GunBlog VarietyCast is part of the Self-Defense Radio Network, which has a whole bunch of other podcasts in it. So I thought, why don't I list a few of them? You can find all of these at selfdefenseradio.net. There's Armed Lutheran Radio,
Geeks, Gadgets, and Guns,
Gun Freedom Radio,
Handgun World Podcast,
Liberty on Point,
Modern Self-Protection Podcast,
Polite Society Podcast,
Politics Daily Podcast,
Self-Defense Gun Stories,
and Today's Survival Show.
And I've also got a couple of other podcasts that are not part of the Self-Defense Radio Network, but are still worth your time. Of course, Luke's Triangle Tactical Podcast at triangletactical.net,
The American Warrior Show at americanwarriorshow.libsyn.com,
and Michael Bain's Downrange Radio at www.downrange.tv,
Freakonomics Radio at freakonomics.com,
and The Squirrel Report at sqrpt.com,
home of the podcast bicycle.
And there's one more that I am a particular fan of, and I'm going to pitch this one myself since I don't know that Aaron has actually listened to Decoder Ring Theater. If you have ever listened to old-timey radio, if you've ever listened to people do radio theater, this is for you. Decoder Ring Theater is at Decoder Ring Theatre, T-R-E, T-H-E-A-T-R-E, because they're Canadian. Theatre.com. And you just got to check this out. They used to do Blackjack Justice. Unfortunately, that show's going to end, but they are gearing up to do, I guess, dramatic reading, I don't know, of a book that the guy wrote from Blackjack Justice. Listen to a couple of episodes of the show, and if you like it, go back and download all the old episodes of Blackjack Justice. It is hard-boiled detective comedy-ish. It's funny. It's not done for laughs, but oh my God, it's funny. And the other show that they do is the terrible twosome of Toronto, the Red Panda Adventures. It's the Red Panda and his sidekick Flying Squirrel. It's masked, costumed Avengers in Toronto. And it's hard to describe, but it is absolutely really, really, really worth your time. So check it out. Decoder Ring Theatre, TRE.com. I'd like to get a little personal for a moment here. We've been doing these shows for a little over 2 years now, and I'd like to thank all of you for showing up all that time. Those of you who are just starting and those of you who've been around for a long time, you guys have invited us into your ears for however many episodes you've been for so long, and I appreciate that. Many of you have given money. We've bought a lot of equipment over this time. We're about to use all the equipment that we just got for Tiffany, and Tiffany's going to have the ability to do some really cool interviews one-on-one in the same room with people instead of passing a microphone back and forth, or by telephone or by Skype with some really interesting people she knows. And all of that stuff was either from advertisements or from direct, you guys gave us money. All of Aaron's stuff came that way. But most importantly, so many of you have downloaded and listened to this show, and I really can't explain to you how much that means to me and how much that means to the rest of the people on this podcast that you take the time and listen to the work that we have put in every single week to this show. And I want to thank you all very much for taking the time each week to listen to us.
Yeah, as someone who has been a recipient of these gifts in order to buy better podcast equipment, that really means a lot to me, because it's not just a case of, well, we like Erin and we want to give her things. It is, to me, an affirmation of the quality of what I'm doing, because you are in effect saying, we like what you do, we want you to do more of it, we want you to do it better, so we're going to give you money, we're going to donate so that you can get better equipment so that you can make a more professional podcast. And that is just very uplifting to me, because it tells me that I am doing something that is appreciated and important. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you very much for all the donations.
Well, that's our show for the week. Remember that the GunBlog VarietyCast is a member of the Self-Defense Radio Network.
And find the show notes at gunblogvarietycast.com/episode 116.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the GunBlog VarietyCast. Music courtesy of Rob Allen at blog.roballen.com. You can subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher Radio, and Google Play Music. This podcast is made possible by the Firearms Policy Coalition and by contributions from listeners like you. This is a URS production.